Welcome to Crazed Performance Repair. We are going to be doing a little bit of an AC compressor clutch on this Dodge truck. Now this is a very common problem, 6.7 Cummins diesel, where the clutch actually fails. They are getting harder and harder to find the clutches, simply because they want you to replace the compressor, right? But you can service the clutch. Now this particular clutch that I got, I picked up on Amazon. I'll try and throw a link in the description below because it's really the only place I could really find it. Hopefully it's right. I did one before, and the customer actually brought that one, and I believe they ordered it from the same place. So we have the new compressor clutch here. It comes with some hardware. It has a clip, a bolt, and a couple of shims, and I'll explain them as well because you need to shim this thing to do it properly. And then of course you have your actual spring plate that gets pulled against the coil, or the pulley, which has the coil behind the pulley. So this is the full assembly. This is what we are going to replace rather than replace the AC compressor. And I'm actually going to do a little bit of a unique one today because I have a full shop. I am plump full. So we're going to do the job on the floor as if you would in your yard. I'm laying down a chunk of cardboard. I'm going to lay down on the floor. We're going to do this job on the ground without even popping the hood. That's how simple it is. So let's go ahead, get started. I'll get you guys a glimpse of what all is involved in getting this job done, and we will get to it. So you can see I have a light right here. I also have a light here, and then I have a ratchet up here. This is on the tensioner for the belt. I'm going to go ahead and bring you guys a view of what I'm going to do exactly so that you can see it, but I'm going to have to bring the camera in and out to show you what I'm doing because there's no way I can really set it in here that you can actually see everything. So we're going to be moving the camera a lot on this particular video, but I'm going to do everything I can to try and get you guys a decent view of things. Right now you can't see hardly anything. You can see suspension, that's about it. But we're going to try our best to get you a decent view of things so that when you go to tackle this job yourself, you can actually see what you're up against. My audio is bad, and I'll explain that in the video later, but this was an afterthought. I forgot to show you guys what had happened to this actual vehicle, so I'm jumping in the middle of the video to show you. But basically, this is the actual piece that failed on his. The bolt appears to have come loose. Now, there is threads inside there for pulling this guy off, but this one was already loose on the vehicle. So he said pieces had fallen out was a symptom, and you can see it does not have the little pieces of tin. There's supposed to be pieces of tin that go from, so it goes from these holes to that with a strap of metal between those, and it's supposed to hold it all together in the right position, but it clearly fell apart. Nope, I'm holding that wrong. There we go. Go this way. It's supposed to sit like that, but this guy fell apart, and that is why we're in the position we are. I just pulled this off the truck and set it aside and forgot to mention it because I let him drive it until I could get the part in. So that's where that sits. That's why I'm interrupting. I forgot to mention that. Okay, so first things first, we have the tensioner pulley right there. Now this is a 1/2-inch ratchet that is attached to the tensioner pulley there, and what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to pull this guy over. It loosens the belt, and when that belt is loose, I'm going to go ahead and pull this belt over this pulley here so that it just kind of sits on top of a section of it, and then I can, where's my hand, there we go, then I can move this ratchet to get it to click a couple of times, and then I can do it again, and then I should be able to pull the belt off. Now once that process has been done, I am then going to be tackling right in this area, and I'll try and get you a good view of this here when the time comes, but there's a clip in here that I had to get access to. It was full of dirt and debris inside this unit here, so I took this 90-degree pick and I just ran it around to clean out as much of the debris and gunk as I could, just knock it out of there. And the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and grab my air nozzle and blow this out so you can see it a little bit better. But I wanted you guys to kind of see how dirty that thing is. In fact, I should probably get you some light on it, and then hopefully in my editing software I can zoom in and get you a good view on the dirt and debris in there. So that's what we're up against. That's what we have to deal with. Alright, so early apologies. The audio quality is going to get real crummy here. I had to pull this guy off. This has my microphone and it's kind of a housing, but you can see how big that thing is. And it's for my GoPro that I'm holding currently, but I'm going to use the GoPro alone because I think it's the only way I can actually get this camera up in this tight space to show you what we're working with here. But basically, see if I can get a good view. Gotta get the lighting in the right spot, the whole nine. There we go, we can see it really good. So you see that clip that's on there? I have to get a snap ring pliers and I have to pop that clip off of there. That will allow me to pull the pulley part of the system off. And then we have to work on the actual coil itself. And there's a plug-in right here going in the back. Of course you can't see, there we go. There's a plug-in right there that we have to unplug, but it's not quite that simple because there is some stuff on the top of the AC compressor that is all going to be in the way. And just so you got a good view of what I'm actually looking at, we're going to back away here. And you can see the AC compressor and that plug right there. And then there's some stuff we have to address from the fender well area in order to get that plug undone, but we'll get to that when we get to it. So first I'm going to remove that snap ring. Now, as far as the belt goes, I found I could stuff it right on the back side of this pulley here. I don't know how well. There we go, now you can see it. See where I got that belt stuff? And I was able to do it without ratcheting the ratchet. So I did it in one swoop. Your situation might vary though. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that clip off and we'll be right back. If you don't have snap ring pliers, I'll go ahead and I'll find something on Amazon that I can link in the description below to give you an idea of the kind that I would buy. There we go. Got it. Came off not quite how I wanted to, but it's off. So we got that out. Now this guy here should technically slide off there, but usually they're pretty stuck in there. So I'm going to get something to try and wedge in behind here. In fact, the snap ring plier might do just the trick. Don't want to go too far back because I don't want to hit that coil. Nope, not going to come free. So I got to get a little bit of pryage up in here, and I'm going to work between this bolt here. There's a bolt right here and the pulley, and I'm going to try and walk that pulley back and forth until it comes past where it's kind of stuck in place. So I'm not going to be able to do that on camera. I was surprised I could do the snap ring on camera, but there you have it. Alright, so I have this goofy bad pry bar. I started with a screwdriver, just shoving it in here and just kind of go back a little bit, back and forth, and you have to mind the coil that's back inside here because you don't want to pry behind the coil, you want to actually pry on the pulley itself. And then I ended up stepping up to this guy, working it back and forth, and basically all I had to do was get past a ridge that is sitting where that bearing is actually riding on, and now it's loose, so I should technically be able to pull that out of there. Hopefully you guys can see what I want you to see if I set you right there. I can't see your screen, so I can't tell you, but hopefully you can see it. I'm just going to walk this guy out here like this, and there's just enough room to weasel this past there. And now we have the pulley itself off, but we still have to get this magnetic coil off of there. Now technically, I suppose if your coil is in good shape, you could just, you know, leave it there and put the other one on, probably. But I'm going to definitely try to remove it. So this guy here is actually held in via a press fit. So all you have to do is pry on the back of this coil. Oop, do I have enough leverage? I may not. May have to come up with a better leverage point here. They are kind of tight, so it does take a little bit when you do find the right spot. There we go. But once you get a spot, you can pry this guy off of here. Should, there it goes, come free. So now putting this back on is a little bit of a task, but we do have it free at least. So now let's go around to the other side here and address the wiring. So as for the wiring on this guy here, we need to address the fender well. In theory, one could probably pull this back and access what you need to take care of this, but I'm going to go ahead and pull this cover down and out of the way because camera reasons, for sure, and it's just going to make it so much easier to address anything I need to address, especially since I'm on camera. So I'm going to pull this guy off. It's just going to be a few of these little 8mm bolts that are kind of randomly scattered throughout this thing, and this guy should come right down. I'm not going to pull it all the way off. I'm just going to drop it down so that it's sitting on top of the tire here, and then I can just go above it and see what I need to see. Okay, so we have access to this guy now. There is a little plastic or metal cover over top of this wire, and we have to get that wire out of there. I believe, yeah, the wire's going through it. So we have to get that guy off of there. There is what looks like there's possibly a screw at the very top there that's holding the wiring harness in place. So we have to address that. And of course, all this stuff can't be seen. But I'm putting it on video here for you, so the stuff that you can't see on your own vehicle, you will be able to see via this camera getting stuffed inside here. And you can kind of get an idea of what exactly you are up against, assuming I can get enough lighting on everything. So there you have it. That is what you are up against. And once I figure out what I'm up against, I will let you know further information. That way, before you even tackle it, you already know everything you need to know. So I'm gonna go ahead and try and get this thing out of here and then report back with what it took to get it out of there. Okay, so it's out. There is a it's fairly simple to get out, except for one little bit of a conundrum. But you see that screw that was in the front earlier? It's actually, yes, it's this way. So this guy, it sits over top of that wire. So the screw holds on both this bracket and that little wire bracket. And then this guy sits over top of the wire like that, inside and on top of. So in between those brackets and on top of the AC compressor. And then you got that little clippy-do there. That's what holds the wire on there. Of course it broke when I tried to pull it off of there. But then you have to fight this guy here. Now, being a diesel and an older work truck at that, it had tons of gunk and crap all over the thing. And it has one of these safety connectors on this unit. Where is that connector? There we go. So you can see the little red safety tab there. So this red safety tab, it needs to be pushed over. So it sits like that normally, and in order to unlock the actual button that's over on this side, you have to push this red safety lock. But basically I took this and I squeezed right there, and then it popped that red tab down. So once that red tab is popped, you can pull or push this button and then separate the connector. So that's that portion of it. I'm gonna go ahead and get the new one, and we're gonna figure out how to put this on. There was the one challenge though, is getting this thing out of there. There's not enough room between the fan shroud, this plastic shroud, and the actual front of the compressor. Two things you could do. You could unbolt the compressor, that's gonna suck, or you can just force it past the plastic shroud because it's plastic and it kind of folds more or less. And that's what I chose to do. I just kind of forced it. So my next step here, I'm gonna go ahead and clean up this stuff with a little brake clean, and then I'm gonna get the new one and I'm gonna try and press it into place before I even bother with the wiring. So I'm gonna go ahead, grab that, and then report back with what exactly happened and how well it went. So I have to get creative with this one here. We have a little bit of a weird contraption going on. What I have is 3/8 sockets, or extensions, as spacers, because we have to be able to press that unit on there. Nothing really is going to fit in there. So I took the old plate here, this is the old clutch plate, and I'm using these guys and a bolt to tighten down into the compressor. The one thing when you're doing it you do want to make sure of is that you have this wire at the top of the compressor, because if you do not have this at the top of the compressor, you're down at the bottom or something, you're going to have to pry it off and do it again. So there's the extension again coming up. I'm going to go ahead and continue tightening this thing down. It should press on all right, but we will see, I suppose. Actually, you know, I'm looking from here. It actually looks like that side is pressed on more than the top, maybe. I don't know, maybe I'll just keep tightening it down and see how it goes. But essentially, that is how I'm getting the thing attached. Okay, the last one I did not give me near this kind of trouble. Now, I tried to do this, it went on a little crooked and I bent the crap out of this little plate, right? So this plate is not ideal. However, it is just held on by these 3 little rivets here, and the main hub itself is really strong. The bolt is not exactly super strong, and you don't want to put too much pressure on the pump, so you can't overdo the bolt anyway. You just got to be cautious. Now, if you want a better way to do this, pull this guy off of here. And what I actually found, which it'd be ideal to use a plate of heavy aluminum or steel or something, and then drill a big hole through it and all that jazz. But I had these couple of bars, And one could probably use a couple of wrenches if you had nice parallel wrenches, or maybe parallel bars, or tire bars or something. You could find something that would fit in there. But I put it behind this plate here. I'm going to go ahead and move the wrench. And this gave me a much more even and level way to do this, so it actually worked properly. It actually worked out really well. And I have the thing completely seated at the back here now. So this is definitely the way to go, not the way that I had it. I'm sure there's a special hub installer tool, but I'm trying to do this garage friendly for somebody like you. So maybe find yourself a couple of wrenches that fit. They have to be the same exact size as far as the thickness here goes. This is a piece of steel that I had laying around, and I had a couple of them, so I'm like, okay, perfect, and that's what I ended up using. And then I just held them up there, got this hub started, and then I was able to straighten this out, which started to get crooked on me. So this guy was sitting kind of kittywampus, and because of that, it gave me a little more grief than it should have, but it is now in place, so I can go ahead and remove this, and it should stay right where it's at, and I'll be able to get the wiring harness taken care of. I'm not going to show you guys me throwing the screw in for the wiring harness. I'm just going to simply throw that little deal on the harness, and then put this over the harness into place and screw that guy right to it with the original screw that was in there. And then I'll show you how to clearance this guy. The part that goes to that guy has to be clearanced, and that is the important part of the finished product of this video, is to show you guys how to actually clearance that thing, because it's absolutely critical you don't get too close or too far. There is a set measurement, and you will want to achieve that set measurement. Okay, we have the wiring and all that fun stuff in place, and we are ready to do the actual hub itself. Now, it is just a simple bearing that slips in place. It's not actually a press fit, so this is not a big deal. Before I go ahead and put this on, though, I want to mention the screw at the top of that thing. It completely kicked my arse. It was not easy to get lined up. For whatever reason, I could not line it up for the life of me. Hopefully you have better luck than I do, but if you don't, go ahead and leave a comment down below, because, dude, that thing was ridiculous. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and get this hub up there, and I'm going to do it on camera. Just slide it up into place, and I should see how it just barely fits there. There's no room in there, right? So it just barely fits in there, and then once you get it to start, you should be able to push it down into place. Now, alright, I'm just wiggling this thing a little at a time here. I think, by the way this feels, I may have actually did a little damage to the hub when I was trying to pry the coil on. Feels like it's binding a little bit, but it's almost on all the way. There we go. Now, I didn't get it on all the way yet, but what I want to do before I do, spin this and listen. If you hear anything binding, or the thing comes there, it just stopped right there. There's a little bit of a stop there. It's hitting something. So that might actually be that unit that's in there, that hub thing. But because it's so easy to turn past that, I'm going to push it on the rest of the way and see if it's still... Aha, there we go, we are hitting. So I have to pull this back off now, because I think what happened is the coil here, since I had so much trouble with it... Where's the original? I had so much trouble with the original coil, or not the original coil, the one I put on, that I fear... You see the metal lips that are right here, these two lips, that's what I was prying on and pushing on, and I used the hub to try and push it down into place. So this guy here, right, and then I might as well grab the bars. So basically what we have is we had the bars in there, but remember, at first I was trying to do it with 3/8 extensions, because I was trying to make it friendly for you guys, and using those 3/8 extensions, and I had a moment where it was crooked enough that I took the pry bar, like this guy here, and I literally pried on it like that. And I think what happened is I may have damaged a little bit of the inner or outer ring. So all I have to do now is, we're going to pretend this is a file. I'm going to pull that hub off of there, and take this and just, wherever there's a little bit of a stick out area, I'm just going to lightly file it. I should be able to get access to it fully right now pretty easily if I pull that off. But that is where I'm going to go with that, and then once that's cleaned up, it should spin pretty nicely. Of course, hopefully you didn't damage it like I did slightly, and you won't have that problem. But this thing should spin freely. So we have the snap ring sitting here on the snap ring pliers ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and put this into place. So most cases with snap rings, you would want it, once it's in the slot, to be in its closed position again, not spread out like that, right? This one, it's a bit tight on that slot there, so I want to make sure I record what it looks like when it's actually snapped into place. So I'm going to attempt here to put this guy over the deal without snapping it in the slot. I'm intentionally leaving it out some. Hopefully, that way I can show you what I want to show you. Oop, did I get it all? I don't think it went in. So, I want to show you what the gap looks like now. So you can see the size of that gap that's in there. Now I'm going to go ahead and push on the snap ring itself so that it snaps into place. That way you can compare what it ends up like when it's actually in place. Okay, it's all snapped into place, I believe. So you see how it's still got a considerable amount of gap on that thing, which is not cool in my opinion. I do not like how that sits, but it is snapped into place. I felt it go in. I felt it sit where it should sit, so it's in place. It just doesn't seem like it. Thanks, Dodge, for not doing a very good job with the snap ring groove that's in here, because you technically should have more of a closure on that snap ring if you were to do it. But now we need to set the clearance for the clutch. So we got the snap ring in. We're ready for the clutch head unit piece itself, the part that actually magnetically gets pulled in to activate the compressor. So we need to go get that. Now with the clutch comes a bolt, a couple of shims, a new snap ring. Dang it, I should have put that in. Well, I could put that in after the video because I'm not going to bolt it down. I just want to get you guys the clearance set up here first. But basically, I mean, I'm kind of going to bolt it down so it's squishing the washers. But I'm not going to, it's easy. I'll swap it out later. Not a big deal. Anyway, we need to set the clearance between this and that deal. Now, I believe on this one, it's 0.010 of an inch. It's critical in that you want to have some clearance. It's not critical in an exact science and measurement. So I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about here by setting this guy into place without a shim. So if I put this guy against there without a shim, what you'll have is it's rubbing. You can hear it? It's literally rubbing on it right now. So obviously that's no good. We do not want it contacting this guy. If we throw one shim in there, we'll see where it sits. So we got two shims. I'm going to see what the thickness of them are here. They are both probably identical. They both look like roughly a 0.010 shim. Now when that thing was against it, it seemed like it was barely contacting it. But we're going to go ahead and drop the shim right in there. And it should, yep, it centered itself automatically. We'll put this guy back up there. Now I'm going to keep it tilted like this to try and keep that shim flat until I'm right up here. And at the last moment, I'm going to start tilting it forward just so I can get it past here. And then hopefully that thing didn't flop sideways, because if it does, this won't go on hardly at all. And then we'll have to address that. I might have to put a little dabble of grease on it. We'll see here. Okay, so you can see the huge gap there, right? So that thing obviously is laying sideways. We can't have that. Oh, I think it just went. There it goes. There it goes. Oh, good. It flattened out for me. Perfect. So now I'm going to push against the center of the hub. Then I'm going to spin this. It's still rubbing on it. That's no good. We don't want it to rub on there. So we're going to get the other shim in there. And we might be stuck with both shims in this unit. The reason I try no shim, then one shim, is because you want the minimum amount of shims possible, but yet to where it doesn't rub. So that's exactly how I'm going to do it. Now I have both shims in place inside here. We're gonna do it one more time, set it up in there, and now it should technically be good to go. Hopefully this one didn't get stupid too. Oh, there, it went right in nicely. Okay, push on that. It is still contacting. That is not cool. I wonder if that snap ring didn't sit down far enough because this isn't all the way into place. Well, I am going to push on that a little bit more, and I may retake this video. We'll see. But I may not have that thing in all the way. So I'm going to push on it quick. Oh, one thing you want to pay attention to, watch them shims. This one stayed in there. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and push on this guy, but I can't hold the camera while I do that. So, all right, we have a surprise. So I noticed something. I grabbed that new snap ring because I was going to put it in, and this guy has a taper on one side. So that taper clearly must go on the outside of, I don't know if you guys can even see that. It's so hard to, there, you guys should be able to see it now. I got a tiny screen I'm looking at, so I'm not sure. But there's a taper on the inner edge there. So if you look right here, there's actually a taper right on this inner edge. And I'm assuming that is so that the snap ring sits down in the groove better. The other snap ring does not have that. It makes me wonder if the bearing on this particular unit that I put on, so this bearing here, maybe is a little bit thicker this way than what the one that was originally on there is. So they tapered that guy, and that's probably why they included a new snap ring. But something you need to pay attention to, I guess. I'm going to go ahead and put the snap ring in and see if it doesn't end up fitting better because of that. I tried pushing that clutch in more, or that hub in more, I mean, and I could not get it to go in any more than what I had it. So that tells me that there's most likely an issue with the snap ring here. But it also tells me that I don't have enough shims that come with the kit. And I'm probably going to have to use the factory shim with the aftermarket shims. Alright, we'll see what that gap ends up. So we can see there is still a considerable gap, but it might be a little less. It's hard for me to tell from here, but I don't know. I'm going to go ahead and pull the other shim, the original shim that I had, wherever it is, from the original hub. I think I set it somewhere. Otherwise, I have some spare shims sitting somewhere if I lost it. But I'm going to get another shim because these two shims don't seem to... Oh, darn it, can't get them. There we go. These two shims don't seem to be cutting it. So I'm going to go ahead and grab another shim and see if I can't get this thing to sit at the right distance. Alright, I found the other shims from the other kit that I had. And I put one in because it needed 3 total. So you can see I have it in here right now, and I have the bolt in my hand. I am not going to permanently do the bolt, but I'm going to show you basically what we're trying to look for here. So I don't know how well you can see that. But you see that movement back and forth? So if I just put my thumb right on the center of this, I'm not going to touch anything else with any other part of my hand. Right on the center here, and I'm going to wiggle this back and forth. You can see how you got a little bit of a gap there? That's what you want. You want that little bit of a gap on that guy. So I do have a little grease on the washers now, though, because I was having trouble getting this thing to line up properly. The grease will keep the washers so that they stay in place, or the shims, I should say, into place. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to tighten this down temporarily, and I'll explain that in a second as well. But we want to tighten this down just a little bit, just to see where our shimming is actually at officially, because tightening this down might change it a little bit. Okay, I did not tighten it much, obviously, because the compressor's turning, but at least now it doesn't wiggle, and I want to make sure. Okay, perfect. So you see how I can push that, and it comes into contact? If I turn this, we should have the same thing on the opposite side. Yep, we have just a little bit of a gap. If I turn this, nothing is touching. That is exactly what you want. You want it as close as possible without having anything touch. Now, in order to actually put this thing on, though, I would like to have this out of the way, and that is why I'm not tightening it permanently. I'm going to pull this off, slide this off, and then I'm going to worry about getting the belt into place. While the fender well is still out of here, it's going to make it much easier for me to put that belt in, because it may have come up off of another pulley somewhere else with all my fidgeting around. So that is what I'm going to tackle now. I'll get the pulley on, then I will tighten this down, and the vehicle will be good to go, ready to rock and roll. Everything should work just fine now, because that was the only part that had failed. Now, if you have your compressor blowout on your vehicle, I suppose I should have mentioned this at the beginning of the video, but you want to make sure this hub is on there and you don't have whatever is damaged interfering with you. But you want to take and turn this guy and feel that the pump has resistance, but no binding, no crunching, no noises or anything of that sort. If you feel anything that doesn't feel quite smooth or normal, besides just building pressure, as I turn this, it's kind of getting stiffer because it's starting to build pressure. That's okay. But if you feel like weird stickiness in it, then your compressor itself is shot. You're wasting your time doing an entire clutch. So the compressor itself can take out the clutch, but the clutch on these is very prone to failure. So there you have it. There is a clutch install almost complete. No reason for me to complete it on camera because the rest is self-explanatory. And with that, like, share, subscribe. I will see you guys on the next video. Thanks for watching.